This episode, I'm here with Laurel Roach from TriFIT Wellness. And the reason we have her on the episode is because she does something really, really well that a lot of people tend to struggle with, and that's retaining members. Her attrition is about 3 to 4% consistently, meaning she's retaining 97 to 96% of her members every month, month over month. Attrition is actually a big part of a formula that will allow you to know how long you're going to retain members for. So for example, let's say you have a 10% attrition, which is still below average. As average for a fitness studio or gym is about 12 to 15%. We really want it to be around 4 to 6%, which is where the best fitness studios really tend to play. But a 10% attrition is equivalent to retaining members for an average of 10 months if you keep that attrition percentage consistent over time. And the way that you figure that math is you take the number one, you divide it by your attrition percentage, so 1 divided by 10%, and that equals 10, which means you're retaining members for 10 months. Now, if you're charging $150 a month, well, that means 150 times 10. That means your average lifetime value is about $1,500. But here's the cool thing. When you get your attrition down to, let's say, 5%, you didn't improve by 5%, 10 to 5. You improve by 100% because you're twice as good. So what that means is if your attrition's 5%, well, you're retaining people for 20 months, not 10 months. So now instead of a $1,500 lifetime value, it's $3,000. Meaning every time you get a new member, it's like adding $3,000 to the business versus $1,500. It's a big difference, right? And when you're down to 3%, 4% like Laurel, where you're hanging on to members for 25 to 34 months, and now you're talking a really big lifetime value. So I want you to understand the importance of that. I want you to measure that in your company so you can really get a good grip on it. And also talk about it with your employees so they understand, man, there's a big difference between 6% attrition and a 4% attrition. Here's what that looks like. With that, let's get to Laurel and how she actually manages it in her business. What changed for you, or what goes in your mind when you think about retention? Because I know obviously you're a salesperson too, you love selling. But what's your mindset around attrition and retaining your members?
I think it just goes down to building relationships, number one. Like that's first and foremost. And we are a little higher price point model, so we have less members. I think that gets harder to do when you are keeping track of 1,000 people. So, and I know we've talked about raising prices and lots of GSD episodes, and so that's one of the things. I don't want to be everything to anyone. I really would rather be in the higher end market, so I don't have to manage as many clients, and the ones that are here, we can really have strong relationships with. So I think that's it first and foremost.
You know, one of the things, because you've raised your price a few times in the last year, right? How, like 2, 3, like in the last 12 months or so?
I think we were around like $199,
Yeah.
then $250, and then now we're at $299. I did go to $349, and we were selling that without any issues, but we're changing the model a little bit and doing nutrition separate. So we've settled on like $299 is
And
our.
then there's going to be an upsell.
That'll be a $600 program that runs 3 times a year.
Wow, really cool. Okay, so the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I think a big thing, I've heard this a lot, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners are thinking of this too. I don't want to raise my price because I'm afraid of 2 things. 1, it's going to be harder to sell. And 2, it's going to be harder to keep because at some point they're going to be like, man, I'm paying $200, $250, in your case now $300 a month.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they cut that right away once the excitement is gone? And so for you, when you went from $199 to $250 to $299 now, how did that impact your sales and how did that impact your attrition?
Didn't impact the sales at all. I mean, at all.
So you raised your price essentially 50% in the last year.
Yeah.
And it didn't affect your closing rate at all.
At all. I think I have a unique situation in that, I've owned the studio for 6 years. When I started it, it was all over the place. We had one-on-one, we had large group classes, it was all over the place. So I originally thought that if I was less expensive, that people would stay longer. And that was not the case. I was selling memberships at $150 a month during COVID, and it did not impact attrition or sales at all being lower. It just didn't. So I think that to that person that's like struggling to increase their prices, I would say it just comes down to the confidence in the sale. If you are doing a really good job identifying the customer's pain points and they feel heard and understood by you, then it doesn't matter if you're in the same ballpark. It's not a $10 membership versus a $300. It's
Right.
$50. If it's the right place, it's going to be the right place for $50 more.
Right. Like an Ultima and a Maxima are very similar as opposed to a Prius and a Lamborghini.
Right.
You know, if a person's shopping for a Ferrari, they're in the general market. They can afford anything within $50,000 to $80,000 of
And
that.
I would say we actually do get quite a few people even in that $10 a month Planet Fitness range. And I just really try to dial in on like why that was not successful for them. And when people are in pain, they will pay whatever it takes to get out of pain. So that's probably the biggest thing, is just really focusing on that. If people are losing sales due to price, they're not digging into the person's pain points.
Are your leads slipping through the cracks? Does managing your software keep you up at night? Does customer support take days, weeks, or even months to get back to you? We get it. FitPro Tracker was developed by gym owners for gym owners. With FitPro Tracker, you can easily process payments, create and sell products, schedule your sessions, market your business, and communicate with your contacts, all in one fitness software. See why hundreds of gym owners are making the switch to FitPro Tracker today.
You know, we've talked about that on previous episodes. I don't think you've dug into it in a cool way where you said digging into that pain point. One of the things we talked about in the past was people will sell the class. And they'll be like, oh, if you do the math, it's only like $17 a class. And they're not buying the class.
Mm-hmm.
They're buying the solution of the pain, right? When you
Right.
go to the dentist, you're not buying the filler
Right.
that they put in the cavity that you got there.
Right.
They're fixing the pain. They're fixing this thing that you've got going on that's bugging you. And that's what you're paying for. Because who cares about filler? And nobody cares about your workout. Now, that's hard for some people to understand, right? Because we like working out. You like working out. You'll go hiking. You'll go, outside and go do stuff with the kids. You'll be in here. How weird is it if you go 5 days without working out?
Very weird.
Very weird. That's
Yeah.
not normal, though.
No.
Most people prefer not to. So when you sell the workout, you're actually unselling them because they don't want the workout.
Right.
Right.
I like to look at it more as a program for people. There's a lot of things involved. And so going back to retention, what other things beyond just providing a workout are you doing for that client? And I think that building the relationship with their coach is key. I hear that from a lot of clients that they were training somewhere else and they had a ton of turnover with the coaches. You know, my head coach has been here 6 years. So they build those relationships with people, and that's you as the owner, it's your staff, and that is, I can't stress how important that part is to attrition. And then the second thing I would say is the utilization. If they're not using it, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them, and
Especially when they're paying 300. If they're paying 10, now you'll keep a $10 member, right?
Sure, but I feel like it's our responsibility. These are not people that are doing this themselves, like we are.
Right.
It's our responsibility to hold them accountable. And I know there's some conflicting viewpoints about this and when to stop calling people and that kind of thing. I've actually had a lot of success having really tough conversations with people because they know I'm not full of shit. Like, I will say, you are throwing your money away. You've been here 4 times this month. Like, what's going on? Like,
Right.
you said you wanted this to happen, XYZ, and you're not here. Like, I don't want this to happen to you.
Right.
Versus they don't show up for 2 weeks and you're like, oh, well, let's just not call them anymore and hope they
Right.
don't come in. You're going to lose them.
Well, because again, when you have the mindset of that, you're thinking about the workout and you're thinking, oh, they probably don't like the workout. They don't like the workout. They wouldn't like any workout. They're not you.
Yeah.
They're not coming in to do the workout because they love it. They're coming in to do the workout, the thing they don't love, to get the thing that they want.
Right.
And what you're doing is actually something that all great leaders have as a common trait, which is you believe in them more than they believe in themselves. I don't want this for you. You know, I think one of the best things any leader's ever done for me is they saw more in me than I saw in myself. And that allowed me to see, okay, what am I capable of doing? What's my real potential? And then I always had a choice. Did I want to do it or did I want to stay down here?
Yep.
And when I hung around them, it made me kind of come up here. But the same thing goes with that phone call. I don't think I can get the results like she can or he can or the people I see on Instagram, nor does that even matter. It doesn't matter if I get to those levels. Even if I was just better, I would be excited. And when you're calling, you're saying like, hey, where are you? I don't want this for you. I want to see you in here. The way you worked out last time was great. It makes me realize that I'm choosing to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not stuck with this and I have someone here pulling me in.
Right.
I don't know many people that don't want to be around a leader like that.
And I think you're going against a person, a client, thinking about their mindset. Oftentimes, you are working with a client who has never been able to successfully do this themselves.
Mm.
So, them signing up for a membership is like a sliver of like what you can do for them, of
Yeah.
what you can provide for them. I would expect it. I would expect, and I will actually have these conversations with people. I'll say, there will be a time 6 weeks from now, 12 weeks from now, where you don't feel like doing this anymore.
Mhm.
That's actually the same conversation I have around contract language, because I would say, unfortunately, you're not going to feel like doing this. Like you're really motivated right now. 3 months from now, when your progress kind of slows down and it's hard and you don't feel like doing it anymore,
The honeymoon stage
yeah, like
wears.
there has to be some skin in the game to make sure that you stick with it. And I don't like being the person to deliver that news, but it's important for your success,
Yeah,
and so I just say that honestly to them.
love it. I want to go back to the churn that you don't have with majority of your people, especially like I think it was Steve, right?
Steven.
Steven's been here for 6 years.
Yeah.
Um, that is very important because your people, this is a relational business.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel connected to Steven,
Very.
right? But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're taking care of Steven as well. He's taking care of our members. We're taking care of Steven. What are some things that you think is unique about your relationship with your people that allows your people to not only give their best, because I've seen them in action. They run this company like it's theirs, which is great.
Yeah.
But not only give their best, but also want to continue being here over and over with you.
I think that, with Steven specifically, it's personal, and maybe that's conflicting. I know some people say like don't be, but my daughter was the flower girl in his wedding. We've been through really difficult times together in the business. um, I've recognized his value and told him that, um, I, I can't do this without you. I
Yeah.
need you, and I think people want to feel like they're not just replaceable, like they matter in the business, and that, um, casting the vision that like why we're here. And I actually think I'm doing a much better job at that since joining Loud Rumor, in terms of like, um, talking about our client stories, what's happening with people, remembering why we're doing this, because they are in this business first and foremost, most coaches, because they want to help people.
Mhm.
So reminding them of their impact regularly,
Yeah.
I think is really important. And then compensating them. Like I know I pay well above
Mhm.
what most others do, and I'm willing to pay that to have excellent people.
Mhm.
And I'm really, really picky. I think I shared with you before, I interviewed 86 people before I hired my last coach.
And you have a very specific process of that
Very.
interviewing. Yeah. So actually, I want to dive a little into that just because, one of the best ways to appear as a great leader is to focus on the front door. Meaning, if you get the right people in the very beginning,
Mhm.
well, then you're not going to have to work so hard at being a great leader because it'll lead themselves. I learned that lesson. I think it was from Wooden on leadership. I think
Mhm.
he's the one that said it. But you focus on the front door quite a bit. So you don't have to worry about fixing all these things down the road.
Yeah.
You get the person that is pretty dang good and motivated. And so what's that look like in the early stages?
Well, and side note, I was not always that way.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of really bad hires on gut instinct, and I don't do that anymore, because anybody can bullshit you in an interview process. Somebody who is the most negative, energy sucking person can turn on a smile and act like that for an interview.
Well, and
They can.
also because you're a motivator, you're an optimist, and you
I'm going
want
to see the best in everyone.
yeah, even if the person doesn't want to be as successful as you want them to be,
Hmm.
you feel like you can help them get
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just can't.
No.
Sometimes the person's got to want it for their life more than you want it for their life.
Yeah. So I think understanding, who, like, what are the needs of that position that require them to be successful. So for a coach, obviously, they have to love people. If you get an introvert, this is just my client profile. Maybe this was different if it was a, like I'm trying to think, like a really intense CrossFit gym. We
Right.
yell at you, whatever. Figure out like what that profile is of that employee, or out of that position. And for me, it's really high people. So people who want to be around and are energized by people. Someone who is patient, and I'm a big fan of Culture Index. So I'm assessing these things on a quantitative level, not just like my gut feeling.
For
about what
anyone
they are.
listening right now, Culture Index, can you just explain what that is briefly?
It's a profiling tool, and it's actually a program. So you have a coach that works with you and helps you identify the different needs and roles in the business, and then you use data to analyze people. So we are making sure that we get someone who is hardwired to do a particular position or a particular job. And what that creates is it's not stress. It's not stress for that employee being in a job that they're really not suited for. Think about like a CPA that like isn't really a detail person.
Right.
Can you imagine how stressed out they would be all day long?
Yeah.
Or someone who's more shy, and you put them in front of everyone in a very people-facing business, and they have to turn something on that's not natural to them every day.
Or in my case, my father was a jeweler. His grandfather was a jeweler. They sat at a bench all day and just did jewelry.
Kill me.
So I was like, maybe I'll be a jeweler too. Makes sense. Because, when you're a kid, you only know of a few jobs. What your parents do, cops and attorneys and doctors, right?
Exactly.
And so I was like, all right, maybe I'll do this. And I'm sitting by the bench, and I remember like 4 or 5 minutes, I'm looking around, and I'm like, we got to do something. We
Yes.
got to talk to somebody.
I made it through about an hour studying for my Series 7 financial licensing exam, because that's what my dad did.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there studying this manual, like, I read the same page 6 times, and I'm like, this is not me. This is not me. So I think just understanding that like everybody is wired a particular way. It's our job as the leader to put people in a role where they're going to be happy and successful. And I've seen that with my coaches now, with my studio manager, with my salesperson, using this tool, that when you get the right person, and you can just watch them thrive because they're doing something that comes naturally to them.
It actually gives them energy.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the things you mentioned too is getting personal with them. So the people on my team that I have the best relationship with are the people that I've actually gotten personal with.
Yep.
Because the trust is there.
There's trust.
I know stuff about you you probably wouldn't want to tell others. You know stuff about me you probably wouldn't want to tell. I wouldn't want you to tell others. Yeah. And that's a little bit of a bond. And obviously you don't get like, obviously there's lines in the very beginning, and eventually down the line starts to blur down the road as far as like what you feel comfortable sharing and not sharing. But as long as everything else is there, trust is overcoming the 5 dysfunctions of a team, right? The first one, the foundation, is trust.
Absolutely.
And you talk about getting personal. Like, I don't believe that when people say keep it business, not personal. I think there's ChatGPT's come out. You know that, right? Like, we're all into that. And I never realized that as much as I even do now, because I'll type in something and I'll put please. And I'm like, why did I put please? This thing doesn't care if I use manners.
I use please too.
Yeah, I use please. And then I'm like, why do I feel uncomfortable telling it to do something?
Telling it what to do.
Yeah. And then I'm like, because this isn't a person. People have feelings. People have insecurities.
Yeah.
People have wants and needs. People go through waves of motivation and waves of depression.
Yep.
And so being able to connect with them gets them to, when they go through that mode, they know that you're a rock for them, as opposed to something that they have to deal with today.
Yeah. And I will say, just an example, literally happened yesterday. And I told you my dog needs the spine surgery. I have been an absolute mess for 3 days. I mean, crying, awful. Like, things are personal. Yeah. Like, we all have things that are happening. And I put something in our Slack channel to my team, the outpouring of like love and support from them. And all I got was, I'm thinking about you. We're praying for you. Text messages. How are you doing? How's Donut doing? Hey, we got this. Don't worry about the studio at all. My new sales rep's been here 30 days. She sold 6 yesterday. Like, did the closeout herself. We were going to do that together. She's like, I got this. Don't worry about it. So like, that is really, that's the testament. Like, that's what lights me up, is like seeing them now have success. And, she has an activity sheet. She has quotas. She has things she's supposed to do. But I can still care about her and know, this girl just moved here from a different state. She had a bug infestation in her apartment. She had all this stuff going on. I can still know that stuff about her and be there for her, and also still hold her accountable in her job. It's like, it's both.
100%. By the way, I love that a fitness professional named their dog Donut.
I mean, that was my daughter, my 9-year-old, not me.
That makes sense.
I wanted something like something like fancier, but
okay. Like,
I got outvoted.
Like LeBron.
I don't know. She's a girl.
One of the things that I've noticed about you is the way you take care of your people, the way you talk about your people, even behind their back. It's always positive. It's always encouraging, supportive. You admire them. And the CEO of Southwest, he said something along the lines of like, the customer is not the most important thing. Your people are the most important thing. If you take care of your people, they'll take better care of your
Yeah,
customer.
I can't touch every customer. I can't
Yeah.
talk to every customer. I can ensure my interactions with my customers are great, but they are the front lines that are going to be talking to people day in and day out. You got to make sure you have the right people.
Right. Um, okay, now we understand you focus on getting the right people on board. We understand that you develop a really good relationship with your people. I love that. It doesn't look like pricing affected sales or attrition, which is great. That
I will say at a certain level, because just being, I think in this community, like transparency is really important and us being vulnerable. I saw our churn go way up in December and
okay,
January. And like, that's the importance of tracking your numbers to be able to see these things.
way up for you,
Yeah.
not way up,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Way up for me.
yeah,
And I mean, like 9% kind of thing.
yeah.
And so that's a big difference from where
hmm
we've been. Well, I changed that pricing up to 350. So that's kind of that, okay, well, maybe this is where this is for the market. I'm still well above what
Yeah,
most
at
studios
299.
are at 299. So that's kind of what made me like drop that back down, start focusing on the fundamentals again of like, what are we delivering for our customers? So, I mean, just touching on that of the importance of knowing your numbers and making sure you're tracking that. So if you do change something, you can see how it's affecting
What's the
things.
variable that made that impact?
Exactly.
So
This is what it's been for years,
when you brought it back to 299, did you notice the churn start to improve?
I mean, this was just in February, so yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
And keep in mind the 299 is just your membership revenue. You still have ancillary sales now that you got the nutrition thing, you have retail, you have other stuff
Right.
as well, right?
hmm
So there's other ways we can still get that dollar per member average up to that 350, 360 mark
Sure.
over time.
Yeah.
So the nutrition thing that you're doing, this is something you said you're doing once a quarter. Again, just another service that you're offering to your members to help them get to their goals. And if I was a member, I would pay a certain amount of money every quarter in order to get the service.
If you wanted to participate in it, the goal would be that people would go through, I mean, we're still building it out, but that they would go through kind of like a level one certification. That would be for most people.
Mhm.
And we're talking about habits and macros and meal planning and emotional eating and hormones, like lots of stuff. So it's very comprehensive. And the goal would be that people really learn that they don't have to be coached forever. They
Yeah,
like learn these tools, and then maybe down the road we have like a level 2
yeah.
program or something like that. So we're still
And
building that.
with that kind of education too, I remember you telling me you do like seminars once a month or once
Yeah.
every other month,
Yeah,
right?
we have one. We just did one on uh, most of my clients are over 40. We did one on hormones and menopause and brought a naturopath in to do that. And that was amazing. I think I had 35, 40 people there at that
Really?
event. We're doing one this month with a client of mine who is a food wholesaler.
Okay.
So he's talking about is organic worth it? Like where your food comes from, like the importance of food quality, all that stuff. So, we try to use our local community and like partner
Right.
with people in the community to bring those experts in and give our
So you
people
never have to pay them,
resources.
right? Because it's more for them, it's exposure and possibly some prospect
Exactly.
opportunities.
Exactly.
For the people, you say, yeah, like 35, 40 people, the last one, is that mainly clients or are there prospects that come? Like, do they ever bring a friend?
That was mainly clients, and I think that's something that I need to do better,
Mhm.
because that's just my personality. I'm like, oh, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. So now there's a little bit more strategy going into it. I have a salesperson now that, okay, we have this event going on. So when we're prospecting or when we're calling old leads, now we have something to invite them from. We're not just like, hey, just checking in.
Yeah. Hey, we have
Hey,
a
we have this
seminar.
event coming up. Like you should come. It's a reason to call
It's
people.
free.
It's free.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You talked about earlier as well, because you gave the one, which was getting the right people and all that, taking care of your people. And the second one was following up with your prospects, holding them accountable, motivating
Yes.
them to come back in. You kind of touched on that with people that have paused, but for the people that are active, who's making those calls? Who's checking up on all those people in order to get in? Like, is it your front desk? Is it your coaches?
Yeah, so that was happening. That's been happening for years. It used to be me doing it. Then Steven was doing all of it. He's the head coach. Now we've gotten to the point where it's big enough now that the night coach, Alex, and Steven are kind of calling their own people. And that list, it's interesting when you start doing this, you're going to get like a huge list of people. Then the more you're staying on top of it, it's going to get smaller and smaller. So it's easier to maintain that list. So the process that we use now is my studio manager pulls a report in MindBody on Mondays, puts that into I call it the mothership, our like data with like everything.
Okay.
That goes in there, and then the coaches go in and they have admin time Monday or Tuesday to go in and call all those people. So we have a record of like the notes on like, did they actually talk to them? What did they say? Are they out of town? Like what's going on with them? Aaron, if that person doesn't schedule within that first week, so Tuesday they're getting called. If they haven't scheduled, like if she looks in MindBody and they're not on the schedule, she will personally call them. If it goes more than a month that they've been out, we just started doing this, mailing out a card to them. So she's mailing cards on Fridays.
And wow, that's awesome. So what does that call look like? Can we role play that call? I know you've done it a little, you don't do it anymore, but
like the coach calling them?
Yeah, like I'm a person that, let's say I haven't been in a week and a half, 2 weeks. I'm normally a 3-time-a-weeker.
Yeah.
And I just stopped coming, and you don't know why.
Week 1, it would just usually be a text.
Week 1's a text.
Yeah.
Okay.
So week 1 by the coach would just be a text.
What would that sound like?
Hey, Mike, I noticed we haven't seen you in class this last week. We miss you. Is everything okay?
Got it.
Because we don't want to like shame them for not coming in when we don't know what's going on. Like
right, it could be something.
They didn't tell us they're going out of town or whatever.
Right.
Awesome. Are you? You're in Hawaii. That's great. Have so much fun. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you doing something active while you're there?
Right.
It's not just a text and then like they respond and we don't respond. We want it to be an interaction with them.
Okay. So
when
are
you
you
coming
okay
back in?
is a really great way to close that out.
Yeah. Are you okay? And then some sort of an interaction. When are we going to see you again? Do you want me to book something for you?
Got it. Perfect. And then you guys will book it right there through text?
We'll book it for them.
Now, what if it's been 2 weeks now, 3 weeks, or whenever the next trigger is for you guys?
If they haven't booked, remember from that text, then Aaron's calling them on Friday.
And what's that sound like?
Hey, Mike.
Hello?
Hey, Mike. It's Aaron from TriFIT. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. So I know Steven messaged you on earlier this week, Monday or Tuesday, and we just hadn't heard back. We hadn't seen you on the schedule this week. Just making sure everything's okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. I was actually at the Grand Canyon. I didn't really have any reception. I was there for like 5 days hiking.
Awesome. How was the hike?
Crazy. It was awesome. Very cold.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to hear more about your trip. When are you going to be back in?
Into the studio?
Yes.
Probably like in the next week or two.
Ooh. Probably?
Yeah, I know. I was going to catch up with some work stuff.
Well, Mike, I hear that. Like, everybody's busy, and I totally get that you're busy. However, I really think that it's important for you to at least, even if you're busy, just to maintain some sort of consistency with your workouts. Do you think you could do 2 times this week?
I might be able to come in tomorrow.
Might be able to, or are we going to see you tomorrow?
I can come in tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and book that for you. What time? You're normally coming in at like 7:30, right?
I'll probably cut. Do you have anything earlier than that so I can get my work done? Maybe
Yeah,
like
We've got the 5:45 or a 6:30.
I do
Which works
5:45.
best? 5:45. Okay, I've got you in at 5:45. Just make sure you're here because we do have that $12 late cancel fee if you don't show up.
Okay, I will be there.
We want to make sure you're accountable.
If I'm a little late, it's because that's early for me.
Okay, do you want me to do that 7:30 then, just to make sure you're there on time?
I'll be there at 5:45. That's awesome.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah, no, that's really good. By the way, I do wake up earlier than that, but I was being the guy.
Right.
I think that was a great.
I learned that weak language thing from you, and I do tell the team that, like, just to catch if you hear people, probably, somebody if a client gives an excuse, we have to be confident in pushing back with them a little bit, because if they're saying probably, there's no chance they're showing up.
No, and if they show up late, that's okay. Like they feel like they won because it was going to be probably. Now look, I'm here. I'm late,
Right.
but I'm here,
Mhm.
right? So no, I love that. Language is one of those things that I think people really admire about the other person too, especially if you're in a leadership role, which in this case you guys are. You're here to lead them through this journey, right?
Right.
So the might be yes or no,
Right.
right? Like I think that's great, awesome. So we got the seminars, taking care of your people, following up with your people. You started playing attendance. you started like really paying attention to the price points and seeing
Mhm.
how that churn follows that. So you've got a lot of really good things. Is there anything else that you think really contributes
Quite a
to
few, yeah.
really
There's a
what
couple
else?
things. I don't know if you guys got a picture of it, but we have something called the traffic lights. I stole this from BNI. For anybody who's not familiar, that's a business networking international, so
Yep.
like a local networking group. Well, they would track different metrics that they found were important for their members to be successful. Getting referrals. Well, you get referrals from doing one-on-ones with people. So they would track these things, and it was called we called it the POO report. I don't remember what it stood for
Poo, like
now. POO.
POO?
POO. But I don't remember what it stood for. But
But you
anyway,
remember poo.
I remember
That's
poo.
why acronyms are important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it would power of one.
Power of
Power of
one.
one. Doing one of those things, one referral, one-on-one. Anyway, so that's what gave me the idea that people knew what they were responsible for hitting. So when a member signs up, we tell them. I don't have anyone who picks a 2-time-a-week membership. I mean, very rarely.
What's the
Like
one they pick?
unlimited.
Okay.
Because I am reinforcing over and over and over in that entire discovery call, in their trial, in the close, that for them to be able to get the best results, they need to be here 3 times a week.
Okay.
So I tell them we are going to be tracking your attendance. If you are not showing up, someone will give you a phone call. So all this is told up front. And then we also tell them we post their attendance on our board
Okay.
every week.
Okay.
So it gets posted every week. Aaron runs that report. It gets posted up there. Then the coaches will put that on social. Hey guys, our traffic lights are out for this week. Make sure and see where you're at and how many workouts
And that's
you
a
did.
good dopamine hit, right? Because I get to check it off. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. My
Yeah.
attendance.
They
It feels
just get to
good.
see how many they did.
Right.
And then at the end of the month, we post it for the month. And we just started doing this. They get, if they streak, if they do 1 month, they get 10% off supplements. If they do 2-month streak,
Ah.
they get 15%. If they do a 3-month streak, they get 20% off. And it stays 20% as long as they
Or continue that.
continue that.
That's awesome. One of the things that people have apprehensions around is the unlimited, but I've always had the mindset of it's good as long as you're the one that sets a term for the client. Do you have people that are coming 6 days a week, 5 days a week? And if so, how many?
Not that many. I think I don't remember where I read this some time ago that like the average person even on an unlimited will come 2.6 times
Yeah.
on average
Yeah.
per week. So you'll get those outliers. But most people, I would say, are falling. I think the last time because I'm not doing this anymore, I think the last time I looked at it, we had about 60% of our members coming 3 times a week.
Okay.
And then it'd be 2, and then you'd have your maybe 10% that like really aren't utilizing it. And I used to focus a lot on that, and now I don't really. I'm trying to get those people that are at the 2 up
To the 3.
to the 3, and like really, because those are
Three's a
ones that are
sweet spot.
coming, they're
Three's
just
a
not
sweet spot.
really getting the best benefit out of it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we do. Other things that one idea that we just started doing, I'm super excited about, is milestones for the clients, where at each milestone, you've read the book Giftology.
Yes.
Okay. So
Cameron Harrell gave it as a
yes.
gift, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So for each class milestone, they'll have, I use ChatGPT for this, give me 10 creative gifts, in the fitness space or whatever. And then like a marketing like tagline for each one.
Did you say under a certain dollar amount or anything?
I didn't. I just wanted to see kind of what it
Yeah.
gave me. So it was everything from like a blender bottle to a foam roller to a gym bag,
Right.
branded towel, and then they each had a little like tagline with it. So my thought process behind this is now the members see some people getting these things, and it creates that like, oh well, I want that. I want to
Yeah.
get to that milestone. So that's something that I'm researching right now.
That's really cool. And you know what, like the wall that you have here, having those like lined up, so when people come in to work out, they see them with the bows. What are those? Oh, those are gifts for the people that hit their milestones this month. Like
Yeah.
seeing them, that
Yeah.
would be pretty. I would always want a gift.
Yeah, totally.
Even
So
it's not the gift; it's a trophy.
Yes.
I don't see it as a gift.
So that's one thing. And then the other thing is we just started a committee.
Okay.
I'm really excited about this one. I put it out to my members. I sent out a survey. Who would be interested in doing like a hiking group? Who would be interested in doing like a philanthropy group with the idea that if I can build connections within the studio where now these people are friends, they're hanging out together, they're doing things together, it creates that stickiness with them staying as members.
That is very true. You're not quitting the program, you're quitting your friends.
All your friends, exactly.
Yeah.
So I asked for volunteers, and I got about 12 members that are volunteering their time. So they have their first committee meeting tomorrow night, Thursday night, in the office back here, where they will plan 2 hikes a month.
Oh my gosh.
4 charity events that we're going to do. And like we're doing AIDS Walk as a community.
Yeah.
So everybody all signing up for it together and doing that. So that one I'm really excited about too. And they will welcome whenever we have a new member. I have one person who kind of chairs that I connect this new member to the committee, and they say, hey, Mike, I know you're new to TriFIT. These are the things we have going on this month. And so they kind of get them plugged into the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got like 12 people helping out with this. So, I mean, and they're not just regular 12 people that you got off the street. These are members. They know you. They know your model. They know your culture. They know what you stand for. They know the other members. They're probably going to help you recruit people for this thing.
Yeah.
That is really awesome.
So this has been the cool thing about like being able to step back when I'm no longer doing the sales and running the studio and I have people doing that, is I get to have these ideas of like, how do we step things up even more and do these kind of creative things that we weren't doing before.
That's called white space. So the importance of having white space in your calendar.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have white space, you're just back to back with one thing to another. And the funny thing is you're still going to get ideas.
Yes.
You're not going to not get ideas, whether you have white space or not. The difference is the white space allows you to think on the idea. Whereas when you know you have meetings back to back, when you get an idea in that 5-minute window, you're running and you're calling and you're making it happen in 5 minutes without thinking it through.
Right.
The white space, people think that's actually worse because the last thing you need is more time for ideas. But in reality, you'll think through it better. You'll probably play devil's advocate with your own idea better when you have more time to do all those things.
Yeah, and then the last thing I would say is just, make sure that Leanna actually was telling me this too, with all these new things that we're doing, like what are the fundamentals of why someone is at your studio? So for us, we're a small group personal training. Is that client being physically touched during every workout? Are we encouraging them to be just 10% better? Are they hands-on, asking them about their day, their workout, like, those kinds of things. Hey, when are you coming in tomorrow? When are we going to see you again? So just that by name, like what are those fundamentals that we should be doing every class? So a couple meetings ago when our attrition was higher, we went over that as a team. Hey, here's all the new things we're doing, but like what are those fundamentals that we want to make sure that we're not missing because we're doing all this other stuff.
I'm very appreciative of you sharing so much. You always share a ton. You actually were a speaker at the last conference, which was a great talk. I know you were nervous before. You kept telling me how nervous you were, and then I felt like you were lying to me the whole time because you didn't look nervous the whole time you were up on stage. But you did a great job. For anybody that hasn't seen the talk, it's a great talk. And yeah, just truly appreciate you sharing as much as you did. Thank you. All right, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show again. For everyone watching, everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.